It's a word that just hits you, right? Cancer. It's felt like this thing, this adversary we can't quite pin down. Like, is it one disease or is it a whole bunch? And can we even really talk about a cure for something that complicated?
I mean, yeah, the idea of one single cure for all cancers, that feels a bit out there, right?
A bit, yeah. But here's the thing. In labs and hospitals, things are changing. And it's not just little steps forward anymore. It's a whole new game. How we think about cancer, how we treat it, even how we picture living with it, it's all shifting in some really surprising ways.
Absolutely. The research is moving so fast, and some of these new treatments, it's exciting, Like, we're building on all this progress, and it feels like it's all coming together to really change things.
And that's what we're getting into today here on Dansplain. I'm Edward, and with me, as always, is Lily. And our goal today, we're going to take all this information we have, all this stuff about cancer treatments and these new technologies, and we're going to break it down.
Yeah, kind of cut through the noise, make it clear what's really happening, right?
Exactly. So you can understand what's happening right now in cancer treatment and what's coming next. We don't want to get lost in the details, but we do want to give you the big picture, the stuff that matters. Lily, to get us started, where do we even begin with all this? Cancer treatment is so huge.
Well, I think the first thing to understand is where we are now, the treatments we have now. And the big shift has been this move towards personalized medicine. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach
More
anymore.
personalized, right? So everything is tailored to the individual patient's cancer. So what are we working with now? What are the main tools doctors are using right now?
Okay, so the mainstays, the ones we've had for a while, are surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy. Surgery, well, that's straightforward. You physically remove the tumor. Still super important, especially when cancer hasn't spread. Like, think about early stage breast cancer. If you catch it early, a mastectomy can really make a difference in survival rates.
You just take it out. Seems simple, but obviously it works. And then there's chemo. That's the one everyone thinks of when they hear cancer treatment. Strong drugs, but a lot of tough side effects.
Yeah, that's right. Chemotherapy uses these drugs that basically target cells that are dividing quickly, which of course is what cancer cells do. But the problem is some healthy cells also divide quickly, so that's where you get the side effects. Nausea, hair loss, fatigue, all that. But even with that, it's been huge for treating a lot of cancers, like early stage testicular cancer, for example. With cisplatin, which is a type of chemo, cure rates are over 90%.
90%. That's amazing. So for some cancers, chemo is incredibly effective. And then we've got radiation. That's the one that uses high energy rays to kill cancer cells, right?
Yep. So radiation therapy damages the DNA of cancer cells, and that stops them from multiplying. It can be done externally, like with external beam radiation, which is often used for prostate cancer, or it can be internal, that's brachytherapy. And the big focus now with radiation is precision, trying to deliver the radiation directly to the tumor so you minimize damage to the healthy tissue around it.
So those are the classic treatments. But now we hear a lot about immunotherapy and targeted therapy. Where do those fit in?
Those are more recent, and they really get at the biology of cancer. Immunotherapy basically is about boosting your immune system so it can fight cancer better. One way to do that is with these drugs called checkpoint inhibitors, like pembrolizumab, that's Keytruda. These inhibitors take the brakes off your immune cells so they can attack the cancer cells more aggressively. And they've had incredible results with cancers like melanoma and lung cancer. For some people, it's been life-changing.
Your own body fighting the cancer, that's pretty amazing. And targeted therapy, that sounds like it's going after specific weaknesses in the cancer cells themselves.
Yeah, that's it. So targeted therapies are drugs that go after specific genetic mutations or proteins that are driving the cancer. They're very precise, and that means fewer side effects because they're not attacking all the healthy cells like chemo can. A classic example is imatinib, Gleevec, for chronic myeloid leukemia. Before targeted therapies, CML was often fatal. Now, for many people, it's a chronic condition they can manage.
Wow. So really understanding the cancer at the molecular level makes a huge difference. And we shouldn't forget hormone therapy, which I know is so important for some cancers.
Right. Hormone therapy is about blocking or lowering hormones that fuel certain cancers, like breast and prostate. Tamoxifen is one that's used a lot for hormone receptor-positive breast cancer.
Okay, so we've got all these treatments, each with its strengths and weaknesses. But the thing is, none of them are perfect. They have side effects, sometimes they stop working, and they don't work for everyone. And that's what's pushing all this research into new and better treatments.
Absolutely. We've made so much progress with the treatments we have, but there's always a push to find more effective treatments, treatments with fewer side effects. And that's where these new therapies come in, the ones that are still being tested in clinical trials.
Okay, so let's get into that. What's coming down the pipeline? First up, CAR-R T-cell therapy. That's where they re-engineer your own immune cells to fight the cancer.
Yeah, that's the idea. So in CAR T therapy, they take your T cells, those are a type of immune cell, and they modify them genetically. They give them this thing called a chimeric antigen receptor, a CAR. And that CAR acts like a guidance system. It tells the T cell exactly where to go to find and attack the cancer cells.
So they're like supercharged immune cells.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then they put those modified cells back in your body and they go after the cancer. And it's been really successful, especially for some blood cancers like leukemia and lymphoma. Kymriah and Yescarta are two CAR T therapies that are being used now. Emily Whitehead was the first kid to get CAR T therapy for acute lymphoblastic leukemia. That was years ago, and she's still cancer-free. It's incredible.
That's so amazing. But I've heard it's been harder to use this for solid tumors, like glioblastoma. Why is that?
It's more complicated with solid tumors. There are physical barriers that make it harder for the T cells to get in, and the environment inside the tumor can actually suppress the T cells. So researchers are working on ways to get around those problems, and there are trials going on for different solid tumors.
Okay, so CAN-RT is showing huge promise, but there are still challenges. What about cancer vaccines? That seems a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Vaccines are usually for preventing diseases, not treating them.
Right, these are different. Therapeutic cancer vaccines, they're called. They're meant to stimulate the immune system to go after existing cancer cells. They target things called neoantigens. Those are unique markers on cancer cells that are created by mutations. So the vaccine teaches the immune system to recognize and attack those specific markers.
And how are those looking in trials?
Early trials for melanoma and pancreatic cancer are looking good. BioNTech, the company that made the mRNA vaccine for COVID, they're doing a lot of work with mRNA cancer vaccines. They did a study in 2023, a personalized mRNA vaccine for melanoma combined with immunotherapy, and the results were really encouraging. The vaccine significantly reduced the risk of the cancer coming back.
Wow, that's amazing. Preventing recurrence is a huge deal. Now,
Right.
this one sounds like science fiction. Oncolytic virus therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Using viruses to fight cancer. That sounds a little scary.
It does, but it's actually really clever. So they take these viruses and modify them so they specifically infect and kill cancer cells. And the really cool part is when they kill the cancer cells, it triggers the immune system to go after the rest of the tumor. So it's like a double attack.
So the virus does damage, but it also alerts the immune system to come in and clean up.
And is this being used in patients already? Yeah, there's one called talimogene laherparivec, TVEC. It's approved for melanoma, and it's injected directly into the tumor. And there's a lot of research going on with oncolytic viruses for other cancers, like brain cancer and pancreatic cancer.
So we've got engineered immune cells, vaccines for cancer, and viruses that attack tumors. What about antibody-drug conjugates? Is that another combination therapy?
Yeah, exactly. Antibody drug conjugates, ADCs, they're like guided missiles. They're made up of an antibody that targets a specific protein on the cancer cell, and it's linked to a chemo drug. So the antibody finds the cancer cell, lashes on, and delivers the chemo right to the target.
So it's like a super precise chemo delivery system. That sounds like it would have fewer side effects. Are there any ADCs being used now?
There's one called Enhertu, and it's been a big deal for HER2 positive breast cancer. It's really increased survival rates. And there are over 100 ADCs in development right now for all sorts of cancers, like lung cancer and ovarian cancer.
Wow, that's incredible. So much research is happening. And then there's CRISPR. That's the gene editing technology, right? How's that being used for cancer?
It's still early days for CRISPR in cancer treatment, but the potential is huge. Because CRISPR can edit genes, researchers are looking at ways to use it to fix cancer-causing mutations. And they're also looking at using CRISPR to edit T cells, like with CART, but to make them even more effective.
So we could potentially fix the broken genes or make the immune cells even stronger, all with gene editing. And what about clinical trials? Anything happening with that?
There was a trial in 2022 where they used CRISPR to modify immune cells in people with solid tumors, and it looked safe, which is a good first step. But it's really early. We need more research.
Okay, so CRISPR is exciting, but we need to be patient. What about liquid biopsies? That's the one where they test your blood for cancer, right?
Right. Liquid biopsies are really cool. They're non-invasive, so no surgery. You can test blood or other fluids to look for biomarkers like circulating tumor DNA. So it's like getting a molecular snapshot of the cancer without actually having to go in and take a biopsy.
And you can use them for more than just diagnosis, right?
Absolutely. You can use them to monitor treatment to see if it's working. You can detect minimal residual disease. That's when you have a tiny amount of cancer cells left after treatment. And you can even predict if the cancer is likely to come back. There's this AI tool, MRD-EGE, that's been used to predict colorectal cancer recurrence years in advance just from a liquid biopsy.
That's amazing. Early detection and personalized monitoring, all from a blood test. It really feels like we're entering this new era of precision medicine. It's all about being less invasive, more targeted, more personalized. But what about the future, beyond these therapies? Artificial intelligence, AI, and quantum computing, they're starting to show up in cancer research.
Yeah, those are the next big things. And they could really revolutionize how we treat cancer. AI is already being used in a lot of ways. It can analyze massive amounts of data, and that's incredibly useful in cancer research and treatment.
So how is AI being used right now, practically?
One area is early detection and diagnosis. AI can analyze medical images like X-rays and CT scans and MRIs, and it can find subtle patterns that could be cancer even before a human radiologist might see them. The Mayo Clinic has some AI tools that are really good at finding cancerous tissues in scans.
So a machine could spot cancer before a doctor. That's incredible. And I read something about AI being able to predict cancer years before it develops.
Yeah, there's a group at MIT that developed an AI model that can analyze old imaging data and predict if someone will develop lung or breast cancer years down the road. That kind of prediction could be game-changing for early intervention.
Wow. So it's not just about finding cancer that's already there. It's about predicting who will get it. That's amazing. What else is AI doing?
It's also being used to personalize treatment. By taking in all this data, your genetics, your tumor's characteristics, your medical history, AI can help figure out the best treatment for you. IBM Watson Oncology is one system that's working on that, although it's still being developed.
So it's like having a supercomputer helping your doctor make decisions. And AI must be really helpful for drug discovery too, right? You can analyze all those chemical compounds and figure out which ones might work against cancer.
Definitely. AI is really speeding up drug discovery. It can go through huge libraries of chemical compounds and predict which ones might be effective against specific cancer molecules. There was a report about an AI that designed a new drug candidate for liver cancer in just a few weeks, which is unheard of. It usually takes years to develop a new drug.
That's a massive time saver. And what about helping doctors make decisions about treatment?
There are AI tools being developed that can predict how a patient will respond to different treatments. Loris is one that's being used for immunotherapy. It analyzes clinical data to predict how likely it is that the immunotherapy will work for a particular patient, so doctors can make better decisions about treatment.
It sounds like AI is going to be a big part of every stage of cancer treatment. And what about quantum computing? That seems like something out of Star Trek. What's its role in all this?
It's definitely cutting edge. We're still early in using quantum computing for cancer, but it has huge potential. Quantum computers are incredibly powerful, and they can do things that regular computers just can't. One thing they're good at is molecular simulations. They can simulate how molecules interact in a way that's much more accurate and detailed than what we can do with regular computers.
And why is that important for cancer?
Well, it helps us understand how cancer works at a really deep level, and it helps us find new drug targets, like the KRAS protein, for example. It's really hard to target with drugs. It's what they call undruggable. But quantum computers might be able to change that.
So quantum computers could help us develop drugs for cancers that are currently untreatable. That's incredible. Yeah. And I guess it could also help with radiation therapy.
Yeah, quantum computing could make radiation therapy more precise. The algorithms could help target the radiation more effectively, so there's less damage to healthy tissue.
So fewer side effects.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And like AI, it can help with drug discovery too, but in a different way.
Exactly. AI is good at analyzing existing data, but quantum computers can explore a huge number of possibilities very quickly. They can analyze millions of molecules in a short amount of time to find potential new drugs. They've already been used to find potential drugs that target the KRAS protein.
So AI and quantum computing, they're both powerful tools. and they work in different ways. They can be a powerful combination for developing new cancer drugs and treatments.
Yeah, the hope is that we can combine the strengths of AI and quantum computing to create truly personalized treatments. I imagine being able to model a patient's tumor at the molecular level and then design a treatment that's specifically for them. That's the ultimate goal.
That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie. But you said quantum computing is still pretty new. What are the challenges?
It's a very new technology. The hardware is still being developed, and it's very expensive. We need more people who know how to work with quantum computers and develop the algorithms we need for cancer research. So it's going to be a while before we see it being used widely in hospitals.
So it's exciting, but we have to be realistic about the timeline. Still, it's amazing to see how much progress is being made in cancer treatment. From refining existing therapies to these incredibly futuristic technologies, it feels like we're on the cusp of something big.
It really is an amazing time. We're not there yet, but it feels like we're getting closer to a future where cancer is less scary, less devastating. Maybe a cure for all cancers is still a long way off, but we're definitely moving towards better treatments, more personalized treatments, and hopefully a future where cancer is no longer a death sentence for so many people.
It's inspiring to hear about all this progress. What do you think will be the biggest turning point in cancer treatment in the next 10 years? What do you see on the horizon?
That's a good question, and honestly, it's hard to predict. But it's exciting to think about the possibilities.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today, Lily. It's been fascinating.
It's been my pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the world of cancer cures and technologies. If you want to learn more about this, check out our website, www.dansplain.xyz. We've got more deep dives there, articles, and information about our partner products. And be sure to join us next time for another deep dive into the world of knowledge.